But what I originally thought was just Matt Walsh, being generally cruel to homeless people and not really trying to figure out why they are in the situation they are in. He just wants to kill them. So, Matt Walsh kind of makes an entire career out of performative cruelty, and I don't mean performative cruelty in the sense that he merely performs cruelty and therefore it's performative. I mean, like, literally, he is cruel and then does it on a stage, the stage being his, stream and his channel. But I think he's definitely sunk to a lower level this time than any other time before, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about that. But before that, let's get into the fan art section. This first one is from Bonbonberry, who is the one behind the 3D models on the channel. It said, "Me and Slime Girl Suris, this is not canon whatsoever, just for shits and giggles." So, context, Bonbon was doing this with only a, like there was a silhouette here, but not a person. Kind of like when there's, a male in 90% of hentai and they're just not shown. And then I forget what it was, but somebody said something about butt plugs, and I think it was Bonbon who said it's not a butt plug if it doesn't have a flare. And so I just sent a version of this to Bonbon as a joke that was me saying it's not a butt plug if it isn't flared, and then it just became art randomly. So if you weren't here for the subathon, you missed the creation of that. The next one we have here is from Ruvak, and oh no, that slime's gonna get broken soon. That's dangerous. You don't let him out of the bottle. Never let him out of the bottle. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and let's go ahead and get right into this. This is from Matt Walsh's Twitter. Says, "People are scandalized that I advocate for harsh punishments for criminals like in Singapore. My critics are right. Much better to be tolerant of drugs and crime than so that every American city looks like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. This is working out great." Okay, so this just looks like Portland. I'm gonna be honest. This looks like when I went to Portland. This is just Portland, Oregon, is what this seems like to me. But let's what kind of harsh punishments is he talking about? Maybe before we talk about this video, we need to talk about that. But I guess first, Stryker has decided that for 50,001 channel points, they want me to say, oh well. His follow-up is, "We wouldn't want to execute the people who've turned our cities into a zombie film. That would be mean. Let's keep them alive so that our communities can be unlivable, disgusting hellscapes." But what I originally thought was just Matt Walsh, being generally cruel to homeless people and not really trying to figure out why they are in the situation they are in. He just wants to kill them. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts here. This is Matt Walsh arguing not for a policy that can help people. No, this is him just advocating to kill the homeless population of cities. That's what he wants to do. Nothing, no nuance, no in between, none of that. He just advocates publicly and without scrutiny for the killing of other human beings. When you see something like this, all right, let's watch this video again, and what do you see? Because what I see is a group of disenfranchised people who need help. I see a lot of people who might be on drugs, who don't have their wits about them, who are stuck in some kind of cycle of poverty or drug addiction or any number of things. I see victims. That's what I see. I do not see perpetrators. I see victims. Love Angel, thank you for redeeming your points for an Ada. You fucking Bijan. But I don't know how else to describe it. When we talk about drug dealers, we're talking about sometimes very, very awful people, and sometimes we're talking about people who get locked into situations where they have had to peddle drugs in order to survive. And a lot of people get locked into those rings and are unable to actually leave them. So when we're talking about the addicts, when we're talking about the people who were disenfranchised, we're talking about the people on the floor here. So which people does Matt Walsh think makes our cities this bad? Is it the victims at the ground level? Is it the drug dealers themselves? It's a combination of things. The reality of the situation is there is no simple way to explain why a city gets to this point. I don't know what policies the city has that makes it to where people congregate naturally into one area. I know for some cities there are homeless policies that make it to where there are certain areas of the city that will look very nice, and there are certain areas where people are just kind of corralled to. When I went to Portland, Oregon, I saw a lot of areas that were very, very nice, that were perfectly fine to just walk around in, places I would consider safe, and then there were a handful of places that I would consider actively dangerous. I probably would have even considered that a few of the people I saw on the street might have been corpses. I have no way of knowing because I was in a car at the time and I was not about to go check. Because I've had that experience, because I've been in those areas, I've seen stuff like this in person, in real life, and I guess I just don't see the same thing that Matt Walsh sees. When Matt Walsh sees this, he thinks we should be killing people. We should be executing the people who turn our cities into a zombie film. But what happens when you kill all the drug dealers? Well, more drug dealers show up because the needs are still there. There's a market need, an underground black market need, but a market need still that people are going to be trying to get fentanyl and meth and cocaine, and they're gonna be still trying to get these things irrespective of if you kill all the drug dealers. So more drug dealers will pop up in their place. Well, what happens when you kill them? Well, that cycle's gonna just continue. You're gonna have more and more so long as that need exists. Why does that need for those hard drugs exist? Well, a lot of it comes down to the environments we've created. When you disenfranchise people, they go to where disenfranchised people go. Right now, one of the things that just is super prevalent in disenfranchised populations is use of drugs, for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons is that people need a coping mechanism in order to keep themselves stable. People need some way of not aliventing themselves. They need some way of getting themselves to wake up the very next day. And for a lot of people, that is opioids, fentanyl, sometimes smaller, less dangerous substances, but sometimes things that are just as bad as, say, crocodile get used. You can't just kill that problem. You have to legalize so that we can actually police those particular drugs the same way we do alcohol. This allows us to get drugs off of the street and allows us to actually start controlling what we do with those drugs. Who can get them? How do they receive them? Note, we still have an opioid crisis, even with those being prescription. This is one part of a multi-step process. The other thing is we need to ask ourselves, how do we get people off of the street? Will killing the drug dealers solve that? No, it really won't. We have programs in place, not as much as we want, but we have programs in place that are meant to take people who have suffered from addiction, who have been in homeless situations, who have been thoroughly disenfranchised, to lift them up out of those situations and give them a halfway home for several months so that they can then transition into more permanent living and housing afterwards. We do things like make sure that they are clothed and housed and fed so that they can go and start making a better life for themselves, so that they can go start working at various jobs and getting back on their feet. We do those things because these people are not monsters. They're not animals. They are victims. And some people don't even see themselves as victims. And sometimes people who perpetuate this stuff are just as much victims as anybody else. Say what you want about drug dealers, but a lot of times people find themselves becoming drug dealers, or even just people who are shipping drugs around the country because they can't make ends meet themselves. You want to stop this problem from happening? You get people a living wage. You make education free. You send more money into programs that help people who are homeless, that help people who are addicted. You decriminalize addiction. A thing that we note as a disease is somehow an illegality thing and is seen as a moral failure. You want to solve this problem, start talking actual policy, not killing everybody who you think solves the problem. You kill every drug dealer, this problem doesn't go away. These people are still here. They still need help. You can't just genocide that problem away. And I find it repugnant that Matt Walsh would even go onto his platform and start advocating not for policy, but for death. But with all that said, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe if you haven't already, and please don't be a monster like Matt Walsh. As always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.